So we are in the Stronghold Games booth here, and wow, what a difference a year makes. You have a whole lot of new games here to talk about. We have Panic Station, we have Outpost, we have Core Worlds, Confusion. Gosh,
right?
There's just so much to talk about. I'm gonna stop talking and let Stephen Buonocore here of Stronghold Games take over and kind of walk us through all the new titles here at Stronghold.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, David, who's on the camera right now. And yeah, it's been a big year for us, as you know. We started here last year, very much around the time of Essen. We came out with Code 777 and Survive, which was a tremendous seller for us. We blew through 10,000 copies of that in 7 months. In fact, we're out of stock right now and going into the reprint. So, well, let's talk about this year. Let's talk about what's going on with Stronghold Games. 4 new releases, essentially. One is brand new only in Europe because it's already in the US, but we'll talk about that too. And then everything else is brand new at Essen and simultaneous release in the US. So the first one we'll talk about is Panic Station. Hey, and there's Kevin if he wants to come on camera. He doesn't want to come on camera. He's shy. Panic Station is a co-publication with White Goblin Games. We only had 100 copies to sell here at Essen, and we sold 100 copies in 30 minutes. It was gone. And White Goblin had 100 copies, and they sold out their copies too. We had a line that started right there where David is on the camera, wrapped around the booth, and went all the way down to where Cosmos is. And in fact, this is our last copy, and there's like nothing in it right now.
Just
it's right
the box.
there. It's right there being played. That's the last copy around. But this, you know, we did pre-orders on it, and we fulfilled them all. So they're out there to the pre-order customers, and they're literally being shipped into distribution in the United States starting this coming week. Okay. So look for this in your retailer. And a quick explanation, this is a semi-cooperative, paranoia-driven card game. It is sort of like playing Battlestar Galactica in 45 minutes. You all start out on the same team, all as humans, and very soon as you explore this space station, someone's going to become the host, infected. Their job now changes. They've got to infect everyone else. And the human players are all trying to accumulate gas cans to bring it to the hive, which will be a card that is explored, a room in the station that it gets explored to burn the hive to win the game. So the game is all about tension, and it is going to drive one crazy about who's the infected and who's not the infected. Great game.
Sounds like it's a nice time compression. A lot of these style games tend to take longer.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
A game that can take that shorter amount of time, it's nice to have that as an alternative if you want to play that style game.
Right.
You don't have to sit down for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and get the same kind of
That's exactly
experience.
right. You're going to get that great high-tension experience in 45 minutes. Very excited about it. Great David Auslu's design. We'll move into Confusion. Now, Confusion is actually out in the U.S. It hit retail in the beginning of October, so a lot of people have it. We did pre-orders in this earlier in the summer when we had some advanced copies, and where we met over at Origins, we had copies, and at Gen Con we had some copies that someone was selling for us, and doing very well. I mean, sold out, has sold quite heavily into distribution even early. We're going to have to go back to reprint this as well in a fairly short order.
Good problem to have.
Good problem to have. So in Confusion, a great Robert Abbott design, you've got the mechanics of deduction, you have area control, and you have a bluffing element. And in fact, even the mechanic that I like to just call the espionage or intrigue element, because in this game there is one of the spy pieces that you think you control is actually a double agent working for the other side. So this is an abstract game, but really those mechanics really lend themselves very well, we believed, to making this a 1960s Cold War era type of game.
And the marriage of deduction and abstract strategy is not one that you see. I can't think of another game that really marries those two mechanics together.
That's right.
In a way that is so good as in Confusion, I would say.
I agree. I mean, Robert Abbott's actually a genius American game designer. He designed games with Alex Randolph, which is a big name in old school American design, and he was hung around with Sid Saxon, who everybody of course knows. He's the least known of those that group, but brilliant guy, older gentleman. So excited that we were able to bring this game out because he went like 20 years before he got a quality game that he wanted to have out. The camera's not going to pick it up, it's being played over there. But the game has got these high quality acrylic pieces that are your spy pieces.
Like Mahjong tiles.
They're like that Mahjong quality, they're etched, etched with the movement symbols. They're etched with these lovely kind of pictures reminiscent of the Cold War, but that's not part of the game. That's simply to give you that thematic feel for the game. Also has these spy notebooks where you keep it, dry erase spy notebooks. As you deduct what each piece does, you're going to erase, so you're going to scratch out what it can't do, sooner or later narrowing in on what it can do. And that's confusion, espionage, and deception in the Cold War. All right. Let's move into the truly brand new games that we have here that haven't been seen in the US. And in fact, I didn't see them. Kevin didn't see it until we walked into the show. And in fact, even more than that, we didn't see them until right before the show opened.
I think we saw them at Ludofact before you saw them, because we were down
Where was my email on this? You could have told me, hey, they look great. That's right, because you guys went to Ludofact and you saw them being printed coming off the line.
Right.
And Frank Yeager, who's on, will be in the other video with him at Ludofact. Literally, they delivered the games on Wednesday night and Wednesday night and Thursday morning, right before the show started for both of the games. So just in time, but really unbelievable response. So why don't we first start
with the classic.
The classic Outpost. Outpost, we're calling it the 20th anniversary edition of the game. The original publishing of the game, first say, it's one of those old Grail games where like still going on eBay for like $150 and things like that. Crazy. The original publishing of the game was by a small company called Tim Jim Games, who did a bunch of very interesting games. This is the one that was most known. Small print runs, they couldn't afford to do very high quality, and it was harder to do higher quality than anyway. And I call this game a sneeze game in its original format.
Yes.
Because the chits were paper thin, literally paper thin. So if you sneezed, you'd ruin all of your factories, you'd ruin all of your colonists, and you have to reset the board or something like that. So now, of course, as we always do in Stronghold games, we took all of those components, throw them out, upgraded everything. So now you have 2mm thick cardboard chits. There's 4 counter sheets, this large, full of chits. There's, I forgot the number of cards, but a lot of cards.
Yes.
239 of these.
It has that satisfying weight when you pick it up, and you know there's a lot of cardboard.
It's being played over here at the table. We've upgraded all the components, so the old players will see everything that they saw in the original game. They'll see some new things in this game. One of them being we have now player mats for each player, so that they can keep easily track of the current level of victory points. It's always easy; you can always calculate them. But now, instead of like calculating it once and then like 2 minutes later you say, well, how many do I have? Calculate it again. Now it's on your mat.
Visual aid. Right?
Boom! It's right there. You have your hand limit, which is something that can change a lot in the game. That's counted there. Your colony support limit, how many people can you support in your colony. It's a player aid as well. It's a lot of information that all the players really need to play this instead of flipping back through rules and things like that.
Maybe give people a snapshot of the theme or the overall concept behind the game, too.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people might know it from its classic one, but I think there's still a wide group of people who may not be familiar with it.
There's absolutely going to be quite a few people who are not, and the game is still brilliant even at this, 20 years later. In Outpost, you are on the most distant planet in the known galaxy, developing the space station there, the Outpost there. Each player is doing a different part of this Outpost, not cooperating. They're all trying to be impress the bosses, so to speak, to become the Outpost director in the end. 75 victory points to get to that point. So how does it work? In the beginning, you're going to start out with basic factories, ore factories and water factories, and these are going to generate resource points, resource credits. So they're going to the resource cards that come to play, which will give you credits. You'll use those to buy more factories of the same type, more colonists up to your colony support limit, or go into the upgrade cards. So that's the resource management I mentioned, but then the colony upgrade cards, those are auctioned. So this is a heavy auction game with the resource mechanic as well. So of course all the colony upgrade cards now allow you to either break the rules, so to speak, increase your hand limit, increase your colony limit, buy robots, which you don't have to house. They can sit out on the harsh environment of the planet. It allows you then to go into other technologies which will get even bigger amounts of production. Microbiotics, other kinds of research. There's new chemicals factories. So all of this will add resources as they produce resources each turn to go and continually buy the bigger and bigger upgrades. So heavy auction game, with the resource management components that you have to manage in several levels, both with the factories themselves and the manning of the factories. Classic granddaddy of auction games.
Average play time for this one?
This is a pretty big game. But it scales from 2 players to 9. The original game was original game was 3 to 8 players. A great variant was out for 2 players. We put it in, and I'm going to mention a little bit about Tom Lehman in a second. Some inspiration from Tom Lehman made it also a 9-player game. So while you're going to be playing quite a while with 9 players, it's very, very scalable across that spectrum. We call it about 25 minutes per player.
Okay.
So if you're playing with 4 players, you're going to be playing it in an hour and a half to 2 hours in that.
It's pretty manageable,
right.
Yeah.
9 players, a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
So you select what you like.
Cool.
Yeah, very, very, very excellent. All right, and now we move to Core Worlds. That's not Buonocore Worlds, that's Core World.
That's the sequel.
This is a brand new design by Andrew Parks. Andrew Parks, fairly noted game designer. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot to mention the extra added expansion in here. Let me very quickly back to this a second, I'm sorry.
Yes, no problem, I'll swap out.
We also added in one more thing. Tom Lehman was a huge fan of the game, Race for the Galaxy fame, Tom Lehman. We added in an extra expansion right into this. So even people who have the game already, they might want to buy it for the upgraded components or for the extra cards that are in here, which is designed specifically by Tom. And he played this like 19 years ago because he loved the game so much he used those cards. Sorry about that detour. All right, I'm looking neurotic going back and forth. That's all right. Yeah, edit me out.
Edit it.
Yeah. Okay. Core Worlds. This is a brand new design by Andrew Parks. Andrew's done a bunch of different things. He's done Parthenon, Camelot Legends, a bunch of games for Z-Man Games and some other publishers. He's working right now with WizKids on a couple of projects. So, great guy. And this is his take on deck building. But it's not only deck building. This is a much, much bigger game than Dominion, of course. I'd like to be publishing Dominion myself. It's a cash cow. But Dominion is almost a mechanic in search of a game. Deck building is almost the game itself. In Core Worlds is a deck building element, but also you're managing your currency in the game, which is energy. That's your resource of the game. As you gain more planets in your system, they'll generate more energy for you, and then you take action points that you get on each turn to use that energy to get more cards either into your deck or to bring them back into your play area. So there's many, many more mechanics and things in this game. This is a bigger game, and it's going to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours depending on the number of players. For 4 experienced players, about an hour and a half. Goes up to 2 to 5 players, in fact.
Artwork is great. In this
artwork is brilliant. People have been screaming about how wonderful the artwork is. There's 126 unique pieces of art in there with 210 cards. There's player mats in here, various chits that you use as well. So there's a lot more going on here. Thematically, if you don't mind me going into that a little bit.
Go for it.
Thematically, the center of the galaxy has this great empire, and it has fallen due to whatever reason. It has fallen, and you are a primitive yet spacefaring nation or empire on the outer fringes of the galaxy, as are the other players. And each one of you is now moving toward the center of the galaxy, going from the barbarian worlds to the industrial worlds to the luxury worlds. And you're gobbling up new technologies in the forms of tactics, in the form of starships, in the form of infantry. Those cards will be used and put into your deck, the deck building aspect of the game. But they'll also be coming out of these sectors. There'll also be the worlds themselves. And the worlds have to be conquered. You need to conquer worlds for a few reasons. One, they'll give you victory points in the end. And two, that's going to end up to be your currency because they're going to generate the energy to do other things.
Okay.
So you must conquer those worlds by, from your hand, playing into your war zones, what we call it in front of you, in the infantry cards, the fleet cards, and invading those worlds. So we don't have direct player conflict. I don't go after your worlds; they're part of your part of the galaxy. But I'm going to be drafting away from you. I'm going to be invading worlds that you might want. So it's an indirect.
So there's interaction. There's interaction.
Quite a bit of interaction,
but not necessarily direct conflict.
But I'm not right. And direct, right? Some people love direct conflict. Some people don't. People normally like deck building are probably on that. I'd rather build my stuff. So you're going to be able to build your stuff, but now the conflict will be like which am I going to draft that ahead of you, or are you going to take it before I get it? That kind of
You can still kind of mess with stuff in a way.
There's still quite a bit of messing, but that messing is going to happen right in the central zone where you're going to be taking things away from people versus going and attacking what they have already. Fantastic take on the deck building genre
concept,
and the deck building concept. We have sold a lot of, in fact, I mean, all the games have sold phenomenally here. We've done really well with this, and both Core Worlds and Outpost just went into pre-order on our website, so people can go to our website right now to pre-order the game. We have nice discounts on that. People are guaranteed to get the games before distributors, retailers, and other customers if they pre-order from us.
Well, you've got 4 great new titles here. It's great that we've gotten a look at sort of the present for Stronghold games. Now I know we've had an announcement about the future for Stronghold games, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about the news that's come out and give our audience here your take on the situation here, because it's a pretty exciting announcement.
Yes, exciting and unfortunate at the same time. I can't talk too much about this, as you might imagine, but Stronghold Games did announce that we are reprinting Merchant of Venus.
Classic old Avalon
phenomenal game. We have been in contact with designer Richard Hamblin, and like the only people in contact with Richard Hamblin for a long time. I started contacting him over a year and a half ago, and he almost treats me like I'm his nephew now. I mean, talking. He's an older man. He's not in good health, but we've been working on trying to figure out how we can come to the deal, and we have a contract with him, and he owns the rights to that game. Unfortunately, Fantasy Flight Games, who I love the guys, I love their games, I own all their games, they were working on this game too.
Unbeknownst to you.
Completely. But unfortunately, unbeknownst to Mr. Hamblin as well, they received the license from another party who does not own the license to the game. Now that's a very bad situation for everybody, unfortunately. So, believe me, I want to settle everything amicably. Stronghold Games, small company, Fantasy Flight, the biggest hobby game company, and that other company, really big company, I'm not interested in fighting things. You know, it doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make sense for anybody. It's just going to be bad for everybody. So,
things are in a state of limbo probably at the moment in terms of how this is going to resolve itself. Is that fair to say?
It's fair to say that Stronghold Games is publishing Merchant of Venus because we have the right to do so, and we can't really say much more, but we are talking, of course, because we like them and they're very reasonable people. Fantasy Flight, we love them, but we are talking to them. But there is obviously a rights issue here, and unfortunately, they were sold bad rights. Yeah.
Well, it's sad when those business issues take the place of talking about the fun part of the game business, but sometimes those things intrude, and I think it's good for people to know that, you know, this business isn't immune to those kinds of arrangements and those kinds of conflicts, like any other business in the world, really.
It's an unfortunate situation that Fantasy Flight Games has been put into, and it's unfortunate for us as well. But we're going to make sure that Mr. Hamblin's rights are protected. I mean, that's important. I mean, it's his game. It's his design, and he owns the rights to it. We have to make sure that his rights are protected. He receives all the royalties that we were going to pay him, which was significantly more than they used to make back in the day from those old contracts. And we want to publish this game, and he has given us permission to do so.
Well, I certainly hope that both parties find a way to work this out amicably, because the game playing public is going to benefit from having that game available in whatever form.
And I can't tell you how painful it is to be talking about this kind of situation where I was going to be so happy for the rest of this thing. We've done great here. I mean, ridiculous sales-wise. Things are going great. But to all of a sudden butt heads with the largest hobby game company, completely unbeknownst to them or us, I have to meet Christian Peterson for the first time, actually. I know a lot of people in the company. I have to meet him for the first time here under very bad circumstances, and he's a wonderful man, and he wants to work things out amicably. Of course we want to as well. We will do everything we can lawyers are ridiculously expensive. I hate them. I hope you're not a lawyer. I love lawyers. Nope. All the gaming lawyers are great people, but you don't want to pay lawyers. You want to work things out. So let's hope we can do that.
Well, I hope the next time that we're talking, we're just talking about games. This is
games.
all just in the past
That's
history.
right.
We don't even have to worry about it, and we're just talking about Merchant of Venus
That's
instead
right.
of all the wranglings that are around it right now.
Right.
Well, thanks so much, Stephen,
Thank
for
you.
your time.
I really
appreciate seeing you here in Essen.
David off camera.
And we'll look forward to seeing you sometime down the road.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Take care.